It's Wednesday, February 8. In the headlines in local news, the JCF says progress is being made into the Stocks and Securities Limited fraud probe. In business news, NCB Financial is expanding the depths of the Payment Services Division. Regionally, Grenadian British royals reportedly to pay reparations for slavery. Internationally, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky makes second wartime trip to the United Kingdom, and in sport, Guyana's president aims for a 2025 completion on a new stadium expected to fast forward the country's sporting progress. This is the news on PBCJ Jamaica. I am Maya Chung. Transport Minister Audley Shaw announced new provisions in regards to the child restraint provisions in the new Road Traffic Act RTA. He announced the new measures in the lower house on Tuesday. Simone Absalom Gale has those details.
Minister Shaw told the House of Representatives that the government had heard the outcry regarding the child restraint requirement and agreed to review aspects of the regulations.
The realities of our public passenger transportation system and how it operates will place an undue burden on parents whose children need to travel in public transportation, whether accompanied by an adult or not. The risk of the inability to access transportation services may exceed the risk associated with travel without using a child restraint system. And in this regard, the rules applicable to public transport vehicles will have to be less stringent than those for private vehicles.
He says new provisions have been made regarding restraints required for the conveyance of children based on age and size in different types of vehicles. The changes will not require parliamentary approval.
In response to the foregoing, a regulation is to be inserted, making reference to the type of child restraint required for the conveyance of children based on age and size in different types of vehicles.
The child seat requirement table will be added to the 13th schedule of the regulations to set out what is required for different categories of vehicles.
Under the updated requirements, in the case of licensed public passenger cars or buses, children under 1 year old must be restrained by an adult. 1 to 3 years old may travel with no restraint or be restrained by an adult. 3 to 6 years old may travel without restraint, restrained by an adult or a lap belt. 6 to 9 years old may travel without restraint or with a lap belt. Children over 9 years old may travel without restraint with a lap belt or a 3-point seat belt. Only children who are of the weight and size to use an adult seat belt are permitted to travel in the front passenger seat.
There are also calls for the penalties regarding lights on motor vehicles to be replaced by warning tickets, which can be recorded in real time by the new trafficking system. Currently, the Act states that operating a motor vehicle fitted with or which displays lamps emitting a blue light will attract a fine of $15,000. Using a revolving lamp used to warn other motorists and indicate priority of movement in traffic will attract a fine of $10,000. Driving or operating motor vehicle without parking lamps, reflectors, brake lights will attract a fine of $10,000 or up to 3 days imprisonment. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom Gill.
Significant progress is being made in the probe into the massive fraud at the investment firm Stocks and Securities Limited, SSL. That's the word from Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey, who has a responsibility for crime and security. He was asked to give an update at a virtual press briefing on Tuesday.
I am not going to go into detail, but they are making significant progress. I can tell you that they have had several meetings with the offices of the Director of Public Prosecution. I am aware that a meeting is also planned for this evening, so there is a lot of progress that is being made.
The investigation is a joint effort of the Financial Investigation Division, which houses the financial unit of the JCF, Fraud Squad, and the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA. 40 people, including sprint legend Usain Bolt, were allegedly fleeced in the multi-billion-dollar fraud at SSL. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation's FBI is assisting local authorities in the fraud probe. Meanwhile, more than 80 illegal guns were seized recently at the Montego Bay Freeport Wharf in 2 shipments over a 7-day period. Speaking at a Jamaica Constabulary Force press briefing on Tuesday, Deputy Commissioner of Police DCP Bailey said there has not yet been any arrest for these seizures, but the police believe the 2 shipments are connected.
We are following significant lead, and ultimately we'll come back to the public to let them know what is the result.
DCP Bailey is pushing back at critics who have argued that the police are not making enough arrests in connection with the entry of illegal guns into the island.
Real policing is different from what you see in CSI. Any law enforcement across the globe will tell you that one of the most difficult type of control delivery is firearm. Firearms, if we engage in that type of activity and we lose the firearm, we have to consider the risk that is involved. Do we take the risk of allowing those firearms to escape our grasp and then become a threat to the nation? Most organized nations will tell you that the only way that can be done is if we are involved from the get-go. Now, what I will say further is that most of those recoveries were based on intelligence.
The government is on a mission to transform the island into a digital society. This is according to Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Dr. Norman Dunn. Earlier this week, he reminded those present at a meeting of the Caribbean Spectrum Management Task Force, SMTF, at the Iberostar Hotel in St. James that through the Universal Service Fund, USF, government is aggressively pushing for that transformation because each member of parliament is being given 4 or 5 local Wi-Fi services to institute within their constituency. Dr. Dunn indicated that the government of Jamaica wanted to ensure that persons have access to this digital space. Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Dr. Norman Dunn, added that the agenda is not to have any Jamaican left behind in the area of digital literacy or access, so therefore this transformation has to take place. The minister highlighted that the global digital economy has become increasingly important, especially since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Explaining, he said the COVID-19 pandemic taught Jamaicans the true significance of telecommunications, as well as the need to secure wireless connectivity and coverage. Dr. Dunn outlined that the meeting also fosters the development of regional relationships that will undoubtedly lead to economic growth, which is of critical importance to the government. He added this meeting comes at a time when the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce has been facilitating deeper partnerships within the region. The MIIC, or Jamaica's Business Ministry, has recently facilitated a trade mission to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and is actively preparing for other such missions within the next few weeks. Objectives of the SMTF meeting, which is open to representatives of the Caribbean Spectrum Management Task Force, Steering Committee, and other resource personnel, include formulating and documenting the SMTF's action plan for 2023 and to facilitate meetings of the SMTF's topic focus working groups. It also aims to engage with industry stakeholders to gather useful and relevant information and to work collectively to address relevant matters arising for the attention of the task force. The 3-day SMTF meeting is being held in collaboration with the University of the West Indies Mona campus and the Caribbean Telecommunications Union CTU and is geared at building the capacity of participants in spectrum management, including students of the UWI's Mona campus, through informative and interactive presentations and workshop sessions. And it is now time for the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
NCB Financial Group Limited's Jamaican subsidiaries are planning to expand the reach and depth of the Payment Services Division to new and existing customers in 2023. As part of its plans to further bridge itself into the digital payment space, National Commercial Bank Jamaica Limited plans to launch NCB Pay. This was confirmed by Vice President of Payments and Digital Channels, Daniel Cameron Duncan, during the company's annual general meeting last week.
We recently completed the staff pilot for NCB Pay, which is our new card app, which enables customers to digitally add their Visa and MasterCards into the app and conduct contactless transactions at point-of-sale machines, both locally and internationally, using only their mobile phone. This is the first in a series of new capability we intend to release in the upcoming months, including P2P transfers utilizing our card rails, which allows real-time 24/7 transfers to anyone with a Visa and MasterCard. So all of that to say, we believe the future for NCB Payments innovation continues to be bright, and we will continue to deliver on our commitments to enhance the payments experience of our customers.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, February 7th, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.11. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.94. The pound sterling traded for $187.98, and the euro sold for $167.24. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 2,316 points. The junior market index advanced by 7 points. The combined market index declined by 2,089 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,558 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 106 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 54 declined, and 10 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, and Access Financial Services Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares. Trading firm were ISP Finance Services Limited, Jetcon Corporation Limited, and JMMB Group 5.75% preference shares. The overall volume leaders were JMMB Group Limited 7.35% cumulative redeemable preference shares with over 2 million units, Image Plus Consultants Limited and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, 0 securities were traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading over 20,000 shares. In regional business, Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, has warned regional economies are sagging and there is an urgent need for a makeover.
We have to rebuild these economies. All sectors of the economy have to be reformed, they have to be energized, they have to be restructured. And we are in search of new economic drivers, new forms of converting knowledge into industry, into productivity production. So this is the time where the regional economy, as the language of popular discourse would say, has to be made over. We have to make over this Caribbean economy.
In international business, Microsoft is revamping its Bing search engine and Edge web browser with ChatGPT-like technology in one of its biggest efforts yet to lead a new wave of technology and reshape how people gather information.
In one of its biggest efforts yet to lead a new wave of technology and reshape how people gather information, Microsoft on Tuesday said it's revamping its Bing search engine and Edge web browser with a new upgrade powered by artificial intelligence. Microsoft announced it will be using technology from its partnership with the startup OpenAI to bring ChatGPT-like technology into the Microsoft search engine, aiming to soar past its main rival, Google. Reuters technology correspondent Jeffrey Daston was in Redmond, Washington for the announcement.
The company announced essentially its biggest challenge to Google yet by planning to launch and roll out a search engine and web browser completely infused with AI. So the idea is that Microsoft's Bing search engine and Edge web browser will have chatbot-style functionality, kind of like the chatbot sensation ChatGPT.
OpenAI made a preview of ChatGPT available for public use late last year. Its human-like responses to any prompt have given people new ways to think about the possibilities of marketing, writing term papers, or even disseminating news.
The technology known as ChatGPT that many of us have played around with experience is itself based on a system that's actually a few years old, and the maker of that technology, OpenAI, has been continually working to improve it, not just in the version that we see online today, but in things that aren't released yet, and also, for instance, in this upcoming Bing search engine. So it essentially, there will be a more advanced version of that powerful AI in Microsoft's new search engine. Though, one important thing to note is that it still has a lot to learn. It still is dependent on feedback so that it can provide factual and the best answers to consumers.
Bing's chatbot will help users refine questions more easily, give them more relevant, up-to-date results, and even make shopping easier.
In market data for oil rose for a third straight day as investor concern eased about U.S. interest rate hikes, and an industry report pointed to a drop in U.S. crude inventories. Brent crude rose 41 cents to $84.10 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude climbed 48 cents to $77.62. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In Grenada, years of calls for compensation are finally bearing fruit. A British family is beginning the process of paying back for years of enslaving people in Grenada. They will open a fund with about $500,000 as part of efforts to pay reparations for slavery.
Laura Trevelyan is a member of an aristocratic British family who will begin the payback process. She has announced that her family will contribute £100,000 to a fund to pay reparations to the people of Grenada for her family's involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. This has been widely regarded as one of the cruelest crimes against humanity. This comes months after confronting her ancestral past during a visit to Grenada last year. It was then that she learned that 6 of her ancestors shared ownership of over 1,000 enslaved Africans on the island. She met recently with historian Dr. Nicole Philip Dow, who is the vice chair of the Grenada National Reparations Commission.
We have Reverend George Trevelyan, Harriet Trevelyan, John Trevelyan. So this is showing us that my ancestors owned what looks like hundreds of slaves on Grenada, on the Tempe estate, the Simon estate,
the Rucan estate,
Beausejour, 5 different estates.
5 different estates, yes.
My relatives owned hundreds of slaves and received thousands of pounds in compensation when slavery was abolished in 1834.
Yes.
1835, the Trevelyan family received the equivalent of £3 million in compensation from the British government for the abolition of slavery the year before. Enslaved men, women, and children got nothing and were forced to work a further 8 years unpaid as apprentices. Trevelyan was shocked to discover the role her ancestors played in the slave trade industry, which she described as
a system of profit built off torture.
Yes.
Now, would you say that the system worked for those who were the recipients of the wealth?
Yes, it worked. It did. It worked for those who received the wealth.
According to a report on TheGuardian.com on Saturday, 42 family members have also signed a letter of apology for their ancestors' role in slavery. It reads, and I quote, "We, the undersigned, write to apologize for the actions of our ancestors in holding your ancestors in slavery. Slavery was and is unacceptable and repugnant. Its damaging effects continue to the present day. We repudiate our ancestors' involvement in it." End quote. The Trevelyan's monetary contribution will go towards the setting up of a reparations research fund at the University of the West Indies to look into the economic impact of enslavement. It will be officially launched here on February 27 by Chair of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, Sir Hilary Beckles, and members of the Trevelyan family. For GBN News, I'm Nisha Paul.
Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM David Commission intends to work to boost bilateral ties with the Bahamas.
We don't have a joint commission for cooperation in place between the two countries, and we don't have a special agreement for cooperation and collaboration between the two countries. So these are things that I really want to work on. Barbados, we have paid a lot of attention over the last couple of years to the Southern Caribbean, to developing relations and collaborations with Guyana and Suriname in particular. And, you know, it makes sense because those two CARICOM countries are very different from Barbados. So in a sense, you know, there are things that we can do with them that we can't do ourselves. But there's also the Northern Caribbean.
The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, are among the high-level delegates coming to Guyana next week for the International Energy Conference and Expo. Newsroom Guyana has the details on the expo.
Preparations are coming along very smoothly. Our infrastructure for the exhibition right now is totally built out. We're just waiting on a few more exhibitors to come in and complete the full setup. Our aim is to have everything completed by Saturday or Sunday in terms of the entire exhibition, set it up. Our agenda is pretty much set. We have 4 heads of states, including Our Excellency, at the opening ceremony. We have Prime Minister Keith Rowley, we have President Santoki, and we also have President Ralph Gonsalves, who will be at the opening ceremony. We also have the former President of Colombia present. At the conference or the secretariat or the event, we want to make sure that we reach out to everyone that is involved, each level of stakeholder. So when you think about the event, I want everyone to think that it's a hub of information for every person from every different walk of life. It could be commercial included, and maybe just a regular person off the road who's curious to understand where's Guyana at, where's Guyana going, where are the opportunities for me, and this is the event where you answer those questions.
And in news on the international scene, Ukraine's president traveled to London on Wednesday to meet with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and address the United Kingdom's parliament, marking only his second visit overseas since Russia launched its invasion. Zelensky is also expected to visit Ukrainian troops training with British forces during his trip. The UK Prime Minister said, quote, President Zelensky's visit to the UK is a testament to his country's courage, determination and fight, and a testament to the unbreakable friendship between our two countries, end quote. His visit comes at a time when Kiev is urging its allies in the West to deliver more weapon support to help Ukrainian forces push back Russia's troops. We join Al Jazeera News for an update.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in London on his first UK trip since the war began nearly a year ago. Zelensky will meet Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and address Parliament. Britain is one of Ukraine's biggest military backers, and it sent it weapons and equipment worth $2.5 billion. Jonah Hull's joining us live from London. Jonah, what's the significance of this particular visit at this time?
It's a rare trip away from Ukraine, of course, for President Zelensky, his first visit to the UK, and coming a fortnight or so before the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It is perhaps a recognition, an acknowledgement of Britain's steadfast support for Ukraine since the invasion, cemented, of course, by former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, but very much continued under Rishi Sunak, and doubtless an opportunity for President Zelensky, not just a wartime leader, but now an absolutely relentless campaigner, to continue his campaign for international support for Ukraine, for that support not to wane, and indeed for that support to deepen. We have in the last few minutes or so seen live pictures of a plane touching down at Stansted Airport, a grey C-17, what looks like a Royal Air Force transport plane carrying President Zelensky. That's about an hour by fast-moving convoy or so away from Westminster here, where he's first expected to meet the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at 10 Downing Street. And then at some point, itinerary yet to be confirmed, Buckingham Palace says he will be meeting King Charles III. He's also delivering an address to both Houses of Parliament inside the ancient Westminster Hall behind me. That's an occasion reserved generally for only the most significant and influential state visitors. And then later he'll finish his day, a busy day of course, meeting Ukrainian troops in the southwest of the country currently being trained by UK forces under a multinational training programme.
Jonah, thank you very much indeed. Just as you're talking there, we can see the live pictures from London Stansted Airport. I counted about at least 10 vehicles in that convoy taking President Zelensky to central London, where he's going to be going through that agenda that Jonah Hull has been talking about.
In sporting news from Guyana, the new sports stadium being constructed at Palmyra, Region 6, should have a minimum of 10,000 seats, President Dr. Irfan Ali highlighted during an outreach to Barbados. Last year, the president announced government's plans to build a new stadium as a part of a larger development for Palmyra, and recently he shared some of the progress with the media. Vishani Ragabir reports from Barbados in Guyana.
Now, conceptually, this is a stadium. We are looking at least a minimum of 10,000 seating capacity with external parking.
That was President Dr. Irfan Ali reviewing the plans for a new sports stadium at Palmyra in Region 6. On Thursday night, the president visited the intended site, which is just behind me. And for the first time ever, he offered details on the new sports stadium.
Region 6 is closely connected to Suriname. Both Region 6 and Suriname, they love racing. So we're looking to have, to build in this, a motor racing track on the outskirts of the stadium so that we will be optimizing the development here, and then also creating athletic opportunities and the entire ecosystem surrounding it.
Currently, the site here might not look like much, but the president hopes that if construction starts this year, the stadium can be completed by 2025, and then it will be able to host sporting events. Reporting for the newsroom in Palmyra, Region 6, I am Vishani Raghavir.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I am Maya Chung. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you for watching.